안녕하세요. My name is Wonju Seo. I'm a visual artist and geometric abstract textile artist based in New Jersey. I create Korean bojagi as contemporary textile art. Before I start to talk about my work and my life involving art and art activities, I want to express my sincere gratitude to the Korea Society who invited me and offered their gallery space to display my work. Also, I would like to say thank to Jeo, Senior Director of the Art and Culture of the Korea Society, for organizing and curating this exhibition. I was born and raised in Seoul, South Korea, and I came to the United States at the age of 34 in 1998. In my childhood, I was a girl who was relatively quiet and shy while being curious in many ways. I'm the third of 4 siblings and grew up surrounded by 3 brothers and 4 male cousins who lived in the same neighborhood. At the time, because of the influence of Confucian culture in Korea, which is based on son preference, boys and girls receive different education and treatment from an early age in schools and their home. I always felt badly about this discriminatory treatment for girls, even at a young age. I spent hours and hours with cutting the papers using a scissor along the shape of female cartoon dolls. One day, my father bought me a set of crayons with 24 colors. I viewed the beautiful colors as a rainbow. I took the crayons one by one out of the box, and I started coloring on a white sketchbook to see all the pretty colors. After that, my interest in colors led to the future of painting. I went to a special high school which provided such good programs for learning not only painting and drawing, but also functional craft techniques utilizing various materials such as wood, clay, metal, as well as textile. I liked drawing and painting, and I also like to learn new skills and create something with my hands. My high school art teacher, Mr. Choi Don-seop, had a great influence on me for applying to the Hongik University and majoring in fine arts and Western painting. Before university, I painted or drew still life and landscapes using watercolor paints, a pencil, or charcoal. When I entered the art school, I started using oil paints and mixed medias for the first time. The most important thing I learned from the art school is the world of abstract art. In the middle of 1980s, Korea was going through political turmoil. During this period, there were 2 remarkably different art trends. One was Korean 민중예술, which was a realism based on political ideology. And the other one was abstract art, such as minimalism or monochromatic painting based on modernist aesthetics. At the time, I believe that many students in the art class, including myself, were influenced by our professors' modernist tendencies, and I began working on abstract art. After graduating, instead of choosing the path of an artist, I started working as a designer. Certainly, it was a big challenge and a new beginning for my future. In fact, outside of the school, I experienced so many things at work, and I learned many valuable techniques such as design, color correction for mass printing, basic computer design, research, silk painting techniques, and textile design, as well as bojagi making that are related to my current work. All of these experience and knowledge constantly have been supporting my ideas and helping me to complete my new form of artwork. I came to the United States for my career as a silk painting textile designer. When I was working in Korea, there was no direct path to see new trends of fashion and interior design, which changed every year. Therefore, I came to New York to see textile market in person. In the United States, I encountered many difficulties, such as the language barrier, loneliness, and economic difficulties until I got married. Nevertheless, I followed my dream in my own way, and I always try to listen to my inner voice that comes from my heart about what I really want to be. I created my own family in the United States, and I met dear friends who constantly gave me love and support throughout my marriage. I feel very fortunate that my husband has always supported and encouraged me in many ways, helping me to make my dream come true. Pojagi originally a wrapping cloth from the 14th century in ancient Korea. There are many different types of bojagi, and the most common one was patchwork wrapping cloth called jogakbo. To create jogakbo, all classes of women in the Joseon dynasty saved leftover fabric such as silk, cotton, and remi fabric from making hanbok, the traditional Korean clothing. They are generally square in shape and in varying sizes. They are used for wrapping, covering, and transferring everyday objects. After the 20th century, bojagi became a Korean culture icon and started transforming as a unique Korean textile art by many collectors, artists, and professional people in art field. I became interested in bojagi art after I was deeply inspired by Korean antique bojagi, which were displayed in a gallery in Seoul in 1989. I didn't see them as domestic household items or crafts. I saw them as contemporary art pieces, such as color-filled object or geometric object that use fabric and thread in place of paints and brushes. I realized that a complete paradigm shift happens when an object is seen from a different viewpoint, away from the existing perception. It became the biggest motivation for me to start creating Korean bojagi as contemporary textile art. I had my first sewing experience when I was in elementary school. I made a small doll cloth using my mother's sewing kits while playing dolls with my friends. No one had taught me in person, but I believe that when I saw my mother sewing from time to time, and I copied her. Now that I think about it, it is amazing that I was a pretty good self-taught little girl. My mother taught me how to use a sewing machine at home when I was a teenager. I learned basic bojagi making in a 2-month class from a bojagi teacher and artist, Wonju Seo. I also learned some basic embroidery techniques from the Sorum Foundation after marriage. Since then, I have been sewing in my home studio almost every day, except when I travel or have friends and family events. The title of this exhibition is Travelogue. In fact, the word travelogue is to describe and record an individual's travel experience in the outside world in writing. However, to me, travelogue refers to the process of visualizing virtual landscapes or images of nature, utilizing textile as abstract art. Also, it expresses my perceptual and emotional journey that I have been experiencing as an artist since I started creating artwork based on Korean Pojagi. This is one of my contemporary Pojagi pieces. I follow the original way to creating jogakbo that was developed by my Korean ancestors in the 19th century. This artwork shows the traditional two-layered Pojagi making method with overcast stitches called gyopbo. To create the artwork, I utilized the fabric that I purchased at the fabric market, as well as leftover fabric which I obtained from hanbok makers in Korea. In addition, I completed the artwork without predicting a pattern or plan because I wanted to see an unexpected combination of colors and compositions in various colors. This artwork is another contemporary Pojagi piece. I created it as geometric abstract art by covering a canvas with a patchwork that I created using fabric and thread. I tried to maintain the unique composition of Pojagi and preserve tradition and modern aesthetics harmoniously in the artwork. The title of this artwork is White Wonderland, and it was created in 2018. The artwork expresses a memory of a snowy night in my childhood. After seeing the snow scenery under the moonlight through the large sliding glass door in the house where I used to live as a child, the mysterious snow scene created in my mind a memory from my younger age. To create the artwork, I used the chilbo munjombo Pojagi making technique by folding and hand sewing the white summer silk called oksa. The size of the work is 26 feet long and 30 feet wide and fills a 4-story skylight gallery wall in the Charles B. Wang Center. To create a large-scale contemporary chilbo munjombo, 2,300 large and small white organza blocks were made by folding and hand sewing. To me, the shape of Pojagi represents a window which mirrors my dream and desire to explore the world. Also, it symbolized the boundary between comfort zone and the unknown world. Through the window, I used to look out to observe the outside world as a child. The title of this artwork is Through My Window, Ocean, Sky, and Winds, and it was created in 2021. The artwork expresses the beauty of nature based on my inspiration from the beautiful environment found on Jeju Island, South Korea. My husband and I explored the island while we were traveling in Korea many years ago. Originally, the Through My Window, Ocean, Sky, and Wind series started from the commissioned Jeju Grand Hyatt Hotel installation project in South Korea 2020. It was organized by Waterfall Mansion and Gallery, New York. Back then, it was a very special experience for me, and it became a big turning point in the direction of my work process because I was able to start painting again through the project more than 20 years after I have stopped working as a commercial silk painting artist. The artwork was produced through many processes such as painting, photography, printing, and single layer bojagi making called hotbo. The first step was to paint my impression of nature surroundings on the island in order to express an abstract painting from utilizing alcohol ink paint. Secondly, I photographed images of my paintings, and through computer programs, I modified and maximized them as a visual element. The third step was sending the modified painting images out to the printing mill in Korea to digital print on silk organza. And lastly, I cut the fabric several times according to the composition and reconnected them using running stitches to create 3 pieces of single layer patchwork on a large scale. These small artwork are map drawing series that was created between 2017 and 2018. The artwork pieces symbolize the load that was chosen or were forced through life from birth to death. The geometric straight or curved lines formed by crossing or continuing over the white cotton fabric create a sort of map images of desert or snow-covered terrain. In addition, they remind me as urban landscape that I viewed from an airplane in the past, or the famous Nazca lines of Peru. I have been creating small size of work using the textile nubi technique for brainstorming since 2017. I'm so happy that I was able to create large scales of work and display them for the first time through this solo exhibition at the Korea Society this year. I still remember that moment when I first saw the Korean tradition artifact using the textile nubi technique in my past. I truly wanted to work on a large scale of textile artwork with the same method. The textile nubi is a type of Korean style stuffed quilting technique. I insert the cord between 2 layers of cloth and fasten it using back stitches in terms of creating a raised surface on the material. It is basically about the same as European cord quilt or trapunto. When I create my work, I decide which materials and color palette to use according to the subject and the way I would like to express my feeling. To me, my textile work in various colors represent abstract painting using colorful fabric. The culture that I experienced and my surroundings are the great influences for me to choose the color palettes on my work. I believe that the colors allows me to express my emotional state most effectively. Therefore, it is very important element in terms of creating textile art. On the other side, to me, my monochrome textile artwork is a drawing. In order to preserve the directions of line, movement, thickness, and textures on the surface clearly, I intentionally use fabric in solid color as a background. When I started working on my art project for the first time, I used leftover fabric from hanbok makers in Korea because I wanted to see an unexpected combination of colors and compositions utilizing many clothes that were contaminated. However, when the direction of my work changed as contemporary art, I purchased a large quantity of fabric with desired color, texture, and thickness. I create my own colors by overlapping 2 or more pieces of sheer organza of different colors, or painting on silk using water-based silk pigment. Currently, I start using the fabric that contains many images of my own abstract painting. As a person who was born and raised in Korea, but lives in a Western society as an adult, I was able to redefine my personal and cultural identity through my Korean wrapping clothes, Pojagi. Since Pojagi was made and used by all classes of women who lived in ancient Korea, my inspiration also came from the history of women's lives and their artistic creativities. As a modern woman and as an artist, I think that I serve as a bridge between two opposite concepts, such as tradition and modernity, craft and contemporary art, analog and digital, and East and West. Through my work, I try to bring these two conflicting concepts together that lead to a unified form of art based on tradition. Through this exhibition, I hope that viewers will be able to see how different forms and composition of traditional Korean patchwork wrapping clothes have transformed into modern arts through the artist's creativity and sensibility with a modern twist. My hope is that I will be able to continue this journey for a long time as an artist who is contributing to the establishment of the Pojagi art, which was one of the daily house items in ancient Korea, reborn into modern art. With this exhibition, Travelogue, I want to share with all viewers the profound impressions I felt when I first saw the Korean Pojagi at the small gallery in Seoul, 1989. Thank you for listening and hope that you visit the gallery and enjoy the exhibition.